For today, we're just going to share with you guys the deck I used back when we played the qualifier, the APAC League qualifier at Race Place. So it was a standard format, and the deck I piloted was June Midrange, or startable control for this build in this matter. So we're going to sort out some card components as well as the creature types I've used for this build. So this was reference so far from an online result for a tournament in which they made changes, basically going from the usual of Nixie list adversary build, and going forward with just removals, value creatures, and going with the late game. Basically the late game plan of just overwhelming opponents with card advantage and strong cards, which I think John has the potential to do so. So going to beat, we're going to start with some creature choices. Mainly the change here is that they had the new lineup for the build. Aside from the usual Tide Harvester, they had this card, the Briar Bridge Tracker, wherein it produces 2 tokens, and as long as you have control token creature, it becomes +2/+0, making it a 4/3 vigilance attacker for 3. So we have 4 copies of this. Along with it was a lone copy of Tenacious Underdog and 1 copy of Valky, God of Lies, which the aim is just to go with the late game, with its late game version, wherein the Tibalt Planeswalker version. So aside from this, also added the Titan of Industry. So this 7/7/7 elemental is basically what the goal in the main deck and the late game. If we're going to go with copying it with the Mirror Breaker, basically game ending in this matter. So aside from going to this aim, we had efficient attacker, and as to why Briar Bridge was chosen, because of the vigilance ability wherein it cannot be removed by the Wandering Emperor, and at the same time going through multiple clues, and also copying this for multiple trigger. This basically having a hasty 4/3 vigilance, was also going to go with the good attacker, and at the same time clue generator, which gets us more card draws in the late game. So aside from this, also added check for the usual stuff of Jund. We have 4 copies of this, the Fable. Let me just okay. So we have also 4 of Voltage Surge. So this is also efficient, since most of having this one is basically having it for 1 mana for 4 damage. Then we also have the Sika Chariot. This one lineup is 4 copies of this. Basically just producing tokens and generating more tokens as it goes to attack. Then we also have a Withered Charm, probably the best charm to use, because it basically gets you 3 cards which you can play until your next end step, and at the same time you can get rid of cards like Stormspan Dragon, wherein it will not basically targeting the creature, but you'll just have the opponent to sacrifice their creature or planeswalker that they control with the highest mana cost among what their lineup is. So along with that, Infernal Grasp also good spot removal. The Loose Life will just be gained up by having Mythic Massacre's triggers. And we have a main deck Duress, wherein very efficient now in the metagame and facing mirrors, like you're getting their Fabled or Eskas Chariot before they can cast it. And Unleashed Inferno also good for Jund mana removal, when you can get rid of the efficient creature, but the excess damage can also trigger to destroy their artifact or enchantment the control with the mana value less than or equal to the excess damage. So that's the basic lineup of the spells and spot removals. And of course, they have Massacre for the sweep or main deck mass removal, and at the same time having the triggers for the copies. Whenever your creature or your control dies, you get your opponent's life with the minus, and at the same time it gives you an excess extra damage needed if needed to go get their life total to 0. Also added Loth. This was supposed to be the partner of Titan. It's also a good choice nevertheless, since Loth also can produce two bunch of spider creatures you can ride up and gump up the board, and at the same time whenever a creature control dies, you put a loyalty counter on this to gain up the loyalty loss, and at the same time the late game can get you to an emblem. Whenever an opponent deals damage by one of your creatures control, that loses 8 life. Last life is termed in the lose life equal to that difference. So for the matchup recap, we have also a sideboard set up for this. I think we're just going to check on it. Okay, we had a few. We have a Binding of the Old Gods, check for traps, also more discards with Duress, another Wolf, another British Charm, more of the one-offs basically, Reconner's Bangbuster, more Crab Archive for the sideboard for life gain, and also a creature threat on its own, another Unleashed Inferno. So Ray and Revealment basically for mono white aggro, basically killing their best cards -4/-4 for just 1 mana, and 2 copies of Unlicensers at the same time Sarulf as an added support with a built-in sort of a spot removal, mass removal for creature tokens with this effect. So basically I'll just take up a few notes when you face mid-range or other. Basically if we're going for blue-red or Iset aggro, just put in more of these to spot discards. Rebucher's Charm, a card draw for Bangbuster, and maybe a Licenser so they cannot flash back their spells, and maybe Sarulf, and you just put out remove some of the spot removals like Voltage Surge, Grasp. I myself also took out Valky. I think also add and Tenacious Underdog as they are not effective in the late game and maybe early game. So for mono white, we also have this Revealment and Sarulf, as they can, most of their creatures are just 1 mana and 2 mana. You can basically wipe them with its effect, and additional Workshop Archive as a source of life gain if needed. Then, and I took out for this matchup Titan, some Unleashed Inferno, Fable maybe, and a Duress. So basically go low with their curve as you go with their aggro start. Just try to keep up with them. These are also efficient removals against them, especially if you have multiple copies or copies created by the Mirror Breaker, and also Mimic Massacre is efficient. And you make sure that you had to be at the reasonable number of the creatures in order for them to wipe them out first. So the overall, the rest of just basic one-off matchups against not so really specific decks, mid-range and control as they can say. Especially for the mirror, you can just go with the more card value creatures, and at the same time survive up until the late game, wherein you can just cast out your planeswalkers and other high value mana mana cards, but at the same time you can just sustain it to be able to win this matchup. So overall, I think that was the deck discussion. The only matchup that I think was was quite relevant for me to mention is the mono white control, wherein you'll just outmaneuver your threats by sweeping the bed farewell, your enchantments, and at the same time will just cast out their angels. They will have the Reckoner Bunkbuster equipped with attacking, and some Warden. I think that was the SNC Angel Warden, which can basically protect itself, but also at the same time getting loyalty counters and drawing cards and having 1/1 creatures threats. So that was the unusual matchup that I faced, but at the same time I got to learn how to deal with those matchup by going with the sideboard. And it's of course the enchantment and artifact removals are important, as well as the discard effects, so you can just talk out their Domescar or Farewell before they can establish their board, by which you can need to curve into your attacking creatures first before they can at the same time they can establish. So overall, that is the deck tech for this setup version. I might need to do adjustments again for the coming weeks whenever the metagame will change again, and I do hope you learn from this setup. For any questions, comments, just basically write it down in the comment box below for this video, and thank you for watching. Until the next standard deck tech for Switch with Apena standard for Magic the Gathering content, just click like and subscribe for more information. Thank you for watching, and until the next time.